Okay, this meeting will come to order. Janie, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Feeney?
Present.
Mr. Uphoff?
Present.
Mr. Zock? Ms. Vogler?
Here.
Mr. Raymond?
Here.
Ms. Mason?
Here.
Mr. Kraus?
Yo. Okay, I have in my hot little hand here proof that this meeting was noticed in the proper channels, and if anybody would like to see that, it's right here. And we will now move to approval of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion on the agenda? I'm sorry.
Steve's coming.
Okay, just didn't want you to.
Yes, thank you. All right. I heard no discussion on approval of the agenda, so we will move directly to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We have an agenda. We will do without the president's address tonight and move to item A, site visit with Oregon Middle School staff. And I think we're going to hear from more than just staff today. Is that right? So may I turn it over to you, Ms. Anderson?
All right. Well, thank you, first of all, for joining us tonight. We're really excited to have you with us. We'll be presenting for the next hour. The bulk of our time, we have arranged some fabulous students who are going to be sharing with you about our restorative justice program. And then the last 15 minutes of an hour, we'd like to take you on a tour of our brand new secure front office since that opened last month. And I know not all of you have had a chance to see that space. So that's how we'll finish up our last hour. So I'm going to turn things over to our associate principal, Josh Iverson, to get us started.
All right, thank you, Ms. Anderson. As she mentioned, it's great to have everybody here tonight. And we have for you our Restorative Justice Club. I am one of the co-advisors along with
Courtney Quaz. I'm one of the middle school counselors, and I'm really grateful that you all are here just to experience just this the opportunity that we've given to our kids and the opportunity that then they give to our Oregon Middle School learners.
So Restorative Justice, we feel, is a very powerful program. It's something that's been here for a while, and Ms. Anderson will talk a little bit more about the history behind restorative justice at OMS, as well as its connection to the Vision Conference from this summer. And then the students are actually going to tell you all about it and take us kind of down this journey for about the next 30 minutes, and then they're going to take us into a circle and let you experience that with us too. So kind of fun.
So before we introduce, we'll quickly go through the agenda Mr. Iverson did. We're going to go through introductions of our RJ members. Mrs. Anderson's going to talk about the connection to the Oregon School District Vision. Take us through the history of RJ at OMS. And then our students are going to talk about what is RJ, discuss a little bit of their favorite lessons and what has been meaningful to them. Also, we're going to circle it up, as we call it. We'll have you experience a circle, not so much one that we would do with in our RJ circle, but more so a circle that you'd probably experience if you were to come in on a Tuesday during Connections, those circle times. And then last but not least, we'll hold questions to the very end. So really the three main goals that we hope that you take away from our presentation tonight is know the history of restorative justice and how it connects to our OSD Vision Conference. Understand the ins and outs of what restorative justice is, how it impacts the learners in OMS and our community. And then also take away the experience of a circle. And I will say, being with these students, powerful, powerful experiences in those circles. So,
yeah. Why don't you go ahead and everybody can introduce themselves, and we'll start.
Hello, I'm Abby Rao. Hi, I'm Michael Edwards. Hi, I'm Eden Myrtle. Hi, I'm Izzy Finstead. Hi, I'm Grace. I'm Sarah Adams. I'm Chloe Monroe.
I'm PJ Bartel.
I'm Kobe Vandermouse.
I'm Alex Tanner.
I'm Sadie Gabriel. I'm Aaron Brockham.
All right, and as Ms. Anderson mentioned before, I'm Josh Iverson, and this is Courtney Quast. And we get to lead with these students every couple of weeks. We get together and have Restorative Justice Club, and these folks are involved in, and we are down a few members tonight, but we have about 17 8th graders and 20 plus 7th graders as well in restorative justice. So we get to do things every couple of weeks. We get together and have RJ Club, and it's fun. So Ms. Anderson, if you want to go and talk a little bit more about the next few slides.
When we had the opportunity to have you join us at Oregon Middle School, we decided one of the most important things that we wanted to tell you about was our restorative justice program. Not only because it's awesome, but also because it came up quite a few times in the visioning conference, 37 times actually. It resurfaced as an item that we want to develop more, spread around the district, and continue to implement to help our students be successful citizens. And so I thought it would be important to think about this work in relationship to our 5 vision statements. And when we sorted all the different things, the idea of restorative justice fell under that emphasis on the whole child. But as you're going to see tonight, as you hear from all of our RJ students, I think you're going to quickly see how the restorative justice program helps to advance the mission of the Oregon School District in all of those 5 areas. They're learning about equity and what that means. The staff members who work with the RJ students, we're increasing our capacity as educators through this program. I've learned so much through this process. You're going to hear how they have grown and changed. You're going to hear about different connections that this program has made with the greater Madison community. And so this program really helps to advance our vision in multiple ways, and I think those pieces are going to really come together for you tonight. Before we hear from their perspective, I wanted to give you some institutional context on the history of our program. And the Restorative Justice Program first came to OMS during the 2012-2013 school year. And we were at an Achievement Connections meeting at the district office. We had just heard a presentation from the YWCA about restorative justice. And the United Way said, we can fund this program for one school. And I have never seen Jim Pleiner move so fast in my life. And he said, we'll do it at OMS. And that's where it really all began. That year, the United Way paid for the YWCA to come and train our first group of 22 students. We had two 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders. That first graduating class is the very top picture. Those students are now juniors, sophomores, and freshmen at OHS. That same year we had an orientation for staff. The next year we received funding again. We trained another group. They came in and did an intensive multiple day training for staff, which is the second picture that you see up there. During the 14-15 school year, YWCA came back, provided more training. We had a parent night in this very space, and that's the bottom picture. I know it's a little dark, but the RJ members brought their parents in and had a very similar experience and learned about the program as well. So here we are in our 4th year, and we, as Mr. Iverson mentioned, trained another group of 7th graders this year. And one of the things that's really blossomed out of this program is the RJ Club. So not only are students leading circles, which you'll hear about, but they also get together on a regular basis to learn about equity and other elements and things. But I'm going to let them talk about that because they're really the best ones to talk about their experiences. But I just wanted to kind of give you a historical context of how this program fits into our school. So with that, I'm turning it over.
All right, so first and foremost, we have Sarah and Carly to talk about what is restorative justice.
Restorative justice is a program aimed at reducing racial disparities in our school discipline and being inclusive to all students. RJ members provide a positive way to prevent and resolve conflicts in a safe and confidential environment.
Restorative justice provides ideas to solve conflicts and equal opportunity to be heard with no peer pressure by using circles to provide a second chance with peers in resolving conflicts. In a circle, there is your first student or teacher, a staff member, an ally, and 2 circle members.
Sadie and Erin are going to talk about how RJ fits within the OMS mission, which is learning for ourselves and others in the world.
Restorative justice is a key to success in helping learners in achieving OMS's mission of learning for ourselves, others, and the world. Circle keepers allow people to come together, open up, and help others. The circle keepers can take the skills that they have learned, such as leadership, empathy, active listening, and problem solving, and use them with problems that we will use in the world when we grow up.
By doing all of the steps we have learned in restorative justice, we can teach how to settle issues peacefully and respectfully. Restorative justice helps us learn and understand by looking at a situation through another person's perspective.
And then last but not least, Izzy and Grace to talk about RJ affecting students here at OMS.
Restorative justice has positively affected OMS learners by providing an opportunity to resolve conflicts and by showing others that our learners care about one another and are invested in making OMS a more caring and safe environment.
Through restorative justice, we've developed leaders from the learners and that peers can count on to help each other grow and learn. Restorative justice teaches us how to be better people for the future and helps us stay out of trouble and become more engaged in learning.
And next, we have Alex and Megan to talk about some favorite restorative justice lessons.
One of my favorite lessons was when we learned about isms, so like classism, sexism, and racism, and some of them I had never heard of before, so it was really interesting to learn about them and what effect they have.
Okay, for me, my favorite lesson was the graduation ceremony. The people who were there through us teaching us everything that we had learned, they told us stuff about ourselves that we couldn't even see, and it opened my eyes. It was such a strong and amazing ceremony, and I was so happy to be a part of it.
All right, and then Abby, Cubby, and PJ are going to share about what we're currently doing in RJ Club.
Okay, so in RJ Club right now, we are working on our ism projects. So what those isms are, like racism, and it's basically discriminating towards a group. And we're taking what we learned and helping out the community with our projects. And that we're just working and developing those right now.
What I'm doing in my group is we're starting a fundraiser to help veterans with PTSD that are homeless and need things. And the ism that we're doing it for is ableism, which is being mean or derogatory to people with a mental or physical disability. For example, not making a sidewalk wheelchair accessible.
Okay, so for our group, we're doing classism, so like judging people by their class, like lower, middle, and upper class. Like the stereotype for like lower class would be like they're mean or they're dirty, ungrateful, or high class that they're entitled, privileged, snooty, things like that, but they're really not, and how people have to work to get there and things like that. And then for our project, we are playing a game called Cross the Line, and it shows people that like some people are more privileged than others.
And next is Mr. Iverson and myself talking about circles.
Yeah, so you hear us talking about circles, and maybe you're wondering a little more about what is a circle. And so we use circles in many different ways. We offer circles for support for students if they're just in need of some peer support. We use circles when we have conflict among students at times to try and help them sort out the conflict that they're maybe going through. We use circles with students who maybe have attendance problems or are tardy to class often. And then we use circles at times for things that aren't listed up there if we just feel like this is a really good opportunity for a student who maybe needs to connect with another student in their class for organizational skills or homework help, things of that sort too. So we're not limited to what we do in a circle, but we're willing to find a way to have a circle for any student who maybe would need one. And so when we get together and have a circle, we generally will have the students either meet in an office or so forth. There's usually 2 circle keepers from the 8th grade, and then circle keeper 1 and circle keeper 2. And then there'll be a 7th grader who has also been trained in restorative justice to be the circle keeper in training, we call it. So the person brings an ally, we say, or a friend with them to the circle. And then there's a couple of 8th grade circle keepers and then a 7th grader in training. as well as an adult then in there to kind of help facilitate the process, but we try and let the kids run the circle as much as possible. And there's a couple things that we do at every circle, and Ms. Foss is going
Yes.
to talk a little more about.
Kind of the key pieces, and I will say again, it's really, these pieces are in place to provide a very powerful, and I mean that, I've experienced some really powerful circles. So these are needed in order for the students to be able to feel safe, comfortable, and really vulnerable. If you have to think about it, kids are really vulnerable coming to these circles. So first and foremost, there is a talking piece, and what this is, it's a significant object, be it the RJ members bring in, just to promote better listening. So whoever has the talking piece is the one speaking, but it also then promotes just everybody to be able to be heard. Then we go into quotes, guidelines, and values. So the RJ members pick both a quote and a guideline as something that is important, that needs to be worked through with the conflict in the circle. And the guideline really defines how the circle and people within it interact. For example, I know one guideline that continues to be brought up in our circles is confidentiality. What is said in circle stays in circle. And that is very key, again, for promoting just vulnerability and the students feeling comfortable sharing. And then finally, preferred gender pronoun. And this is the practice of asking individuals what pronouns they use for themselves, really in an effort to respect the diversity of different gender identities in the circle. So, and I love that. The RJ members are really, really great about being respectful to all people that come into the circle. So, Megan and Eden are going to talk a little bit about a circle, and then they are going to circle it up over with us.
Okay. So, we have had, I don't know, we've run a few circles and they're so powerful. We get to see like how we can help people, and we see a difference in the community when we do it, and it's empowering. It's amazing to see it. So this is a P that I bring in usually for every for every circle. I have 3, and this one is Alfred.
And what is that? What is the significance?
So when my dad had a stroke last year, when he had gotten out of the hospital and he was recovering, we went to Chicago, and this is what I got from the store, and it's just something that me and my dad always do when we're in Chicago. We always go to the Disney store. So I bring it in because it's very sentimental to me, and it's easy to hold.
So usually for every circle, we always pick out, like Ms. Kwa said, a quote, value, and a guideline. And again, what Ms. Kwa said was, usually our guideline is what is said here stays here, and what is learned here leaves here. So we just have like a post-it here.
So, yeah. So, the value we chose for today is authenticity. You be yourself no matter what. There's no point in trying to be someone else, because then who are you?
And then going off of our value of authenticity, I picked a quote by Dr. Seuss. It's actually my favorite quote. Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. And that really speaks to me, because even if, like going back to like the isms, even if you have something that's like a part of you, like a disability or something, you're going to be who you are because people love you, and they're going to love you for who you are and not who they want you to be.
All right, so I think at this time, wonderful. Yeah, we're going to invite you to experience a circle over in the area over there.
Welcome. So the first thing we're going to do is go around and say our names and our PGP or preferred gender pronoun. So I'm Magdalene Edwards, as you already know, and my preferred gender pronoun is she, her, hers, or hers, or anything respectful towards a girl.
I'm Eden Lytle. My PGP is she, her, hers, and anything respectful to a girl.
My name is Steve Zock, and usually people refer to me as hey you. But I go he, she, and sometimes it.
I'm Cubby Vandermouse, and my PGP would be like he or his, or yeah, anything respectful.
My name is PJ Bartel, and my PGP is he, his, him, and anything that's respectful.
My name is Brown Pena, and my PGP is she, her, or really whatever you want to use.
I'm Carmelo, and my PGP is anything respectful to a girl.
I'm Alex Taylor, and my PGP is anything respectful to a guy.
I'm Dan Kraus, and this is
Alfred.
Alfred. I won't speak for Alfred, but my PGP is he, him, or anything that's respectful for a boy.
Hi, my name is Sarah Adams, and my preferred gender pronoun is my name or anything respectful to a girl.
I'm Jeff Raymond. I'm fine with male pronouns, and hopefully they'll be respectful.
Hi, I'm Abby Rao, and my preferred gender pronoun is she, hers, her, or anything respectful to a girl.
Hi, I'm Izzy Finstead, and my PGP is my name or anything respectful to a girl.
My name is Ray Vogler. My PGP is she, her, hers, or anything respectful for a female.
My name is Erin Brockup, and my PGP are probably anything respectful.
My name is Courtney Quast, and my PGP is anything respectful of a female.
My name is Grace Michaels, and my PGP is she, her.
My name is Charlie Uphoff, and my PGP is Mensch, which is a Yiddish term meaning person, or human being. And it's also considered one of the highest compliments you can make for a person. So respect is very important.
Hi, I'm Sadie Gabriel, and my preferred gender pronouns are her, hers, she, or anything respectful.
Hi, my name is Gina Jonan, and my PGP is anything respectful of a female.
My name is Dawn Goetz. My PGP is anything respectful.
My name is Brian Bustler, and my PPG is anything respectful.
My name is Shannon Anderson, and my PPG is anything respectful for a female.
Hi, my name is Gwen Mason, and my PGP is anything respectful to a female.
My name is Leslie Bergstrom, and my PGP is anything respectful to a female.
My name is Josh Iverson, and my PGP is he, him, or his, or anything respectful to a human being.
My name is Nina LeBrun, and my PGP is he, she, her, hers, or anything respectful to a female.
Okay, so we're gonna go around, and the question is, why are you here tonight, and what's your role tonight? So for me, I came because I love restorative justice, and I wanted to tell you all about it.
I'm here to inform everybody about what restorative justice is, and I'm here to explain my love for restorative justice.
I'm here because I'm a member of the school board, and we've scheduled trips to all of our schools so that we can see the wonderful things that are taking place in our buildings and with our students.
I'm here because I'm an RJ member, and I am here to help teach people about what RJ is, what we're about, and just inform.
I'm here because I'm in restorative justice, and my role is to teach people about restorative justice.
I'm here because I'm a member of the school board, and we have been given this wonderful opportunity to learn all about restorative justice.
I'm here to teach about RJ.
I'm here because I'm about restorative justice and to teach.
I'm Dan, and I'm here because I want to learn about what's going on at Oregon Middle School and more about restorative justice.
I'm here because I'm a restorative justice member, and also to teach you guys about a second chance for a troubled student.
I'm Jeff. I'm a school board member. I'm here to learn about restorative justice and to see the cool new office and then we have some business to take care of later.
I'm here because I'm an RJ member and to teach you about how this can help people, anyone really.
I'm here because I love restorative justice and I want to teach more people on how it helps kids get better at school or help out with their problems.
I'm here as a school board member and to learn about restorative justice from youth students, and thanks so much for teaching us. I appreciate it.
I'm here tonight because I'm a restorative justice member, and my role is to help people learn new alternatives instead of getting into trouble, I guess.
I'm here as a restorative justice facilitator, one of the facilitators, and also I would say a member too, but more importantly, a learner. I'm a learner along with all these other learners too.
I'm here as a restorative justice member and to teach about how and why we use restorative justice laws.
I'm here to listen and to learn, hopefully.
I'm here as a restorative justice member, and I'm here to help teach what restorative justice is and how it's useful.
I'm here because I'm the HR director for the district, and part of my job is to help people get together and get along better, and so I'm hoping to learn from all of you how to do that.
I'm here because I like to know what's happening in the district, and I like to see my former students doing great things for our school community.
My name is Brian, and I had the privilege to meet a number of you students before we got started today, and I'm just always impressed with students' ability to pick up complex ideas like restorative justice and then make it simple and make it work and make the Oregon Middle School a better place.
I'm here in my role tonight as a middle school principal, but more importantly here because I love middle schoolers, and tonight in particular to celebrate what you've learned and to watch you learn and to learn with you.
I'm here tonight as a school board member, and also I was doing some research today on ancestry, and I found out that I'm a second generation education. So further back, education was, even my grandparents did not have high school diplomas. And so I have always been interested in education because my parents have always said that education is power. And to piggyback on that, that's why I love being on the school board and a teacher for 25 years. And then to piggyback on what I discovered today was that when I was doing my master's degree in education in the early 1980s, I did a large paper on peace education. And it was not well received because it was too way out there in left field. And it's really happy to find out that that has come to fruition and it's common practice now, because I see the restorative justice in an effort to create peace and to understand all types of people. And so it is a pleasure and a privilege to have all of you young people teach something that has been a great idea but not well received, and now it's been extraordinarily well received. So thank you.
I'm here tonight because I was really excited about having the opportunity to be a student, learning from my former students. It just made me feel very honored and happy to have that possibility.
My name is Josh, and I'm here tonight as well as a co-facilitator, somebody who's very lucky to get the opportunity to hang out and work with such amazing students and with Ms. Quast on a bi-weekly basis. And we get to do a lot of really fun things together. And I learn from them every time we're together. And I say the same thing when I'm with the 7th grade students who are in RJ. A very special group of kids, and we're always learning new things from them. So it's been a lot of fun.
I'm here as a student liaison to the school board, which has been a really cool opportunity for me this year. It's really strange for me because I went to school here a few years ago, and it's strange that it's so different. But I have Mr. Planner as my principal, and he's moved up to the high school with me, so now we're both there. He's talked about restorative justice a few times, and excited to learn more about what it is and learn more from you guys, because I'm leaving the high school in a couple months, and it's going to be a bummer, but you guys seem like the exact kind of students that could be sitting on the school board as a student liaison someday or really making a difference in that school. So I'm excited to learn from you guys.
So, yeah, so the second, so my quote that I shared earlier was, be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. So we're going to go around and share what that quote means to each of us. So for me, that quote, like I shared earlier, was even if you have a fault in, like, not necessarily like a fault, but if you have like a disability or something blocking you from being what's considered normal, even though there is no normal, people who will love you no matter like what you are or like what you look like, or so that's what that means to me. But to me, the quote means, be who you are because there's no reason to be someone you aren't, because that's not really living.
Okay. Yeah, I would say for me, if I'm thinking about especially my last few years in the high school, I think it means like being who you are, doing the right thing. If someone's gonna judge you for doing the right thing, that's right, because people who matter are not gonna mind what the quote says. So I think that's a really cute quote. I've never actually heard that. Yeah, I like that though.
Well, I should share that. One of the kind of rules of the circle is that you don't have to share. You can always pass, and you feel free to do that. If the talking piece gets to you and you don't feel comfortable sharing, that is something that you can do. But this is a great quote from Dr. Seuss, and it's one that we've had numerous RJ students pick this year. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Be who you are, and try not to worry about what other people are going to think about you, because in the end, as long as you do what's true to your heart, then you'll feel good about what you did.
To me, it means you don't have to try to please everybody else all the time. You just have to stay true to your own beliefs first.
I think that quote is very important, but it also is very difficult at times, because if you have physical or visual things that are very different, and that is difficult, but if you have different ideas, you have to maintain your heart, and sometimes standing up for what you believe is very, very difficult, because others want you to believe other things and do other things, and I think that that is a really lovely quote. Thank you.
When you shared that quote, it made me think of something that I talk to students about a lot of the times, and that's that idea of surrounding yourself with people who help you become the person you want to be. And that can be really hard, I think, at middle school when you're trying to figure out who you are, and as adults too, but always trying to surround yourself with people who help to make you better.
I too like that quote, and it reminded me of fingerprints, because we all have an individual fingerprint, and it's very different from anyone else's, and it's so important to be your own person.
When I think about that quote, I think about believing in yourself, and you'll have people who maybe will say you can't do something or not do it the right way, but if you keep believing in yourself, that's what really matters.
To me, it's some of what Ms. Anderson said, that it's really important to find the friends who like you for who you really are, and to not spend time with people who don't, because they're not really your friends.
For me, it relates to the fact that as long as you're impressing yourself and you're who you want to be, there's going to be at least one other person that liked you for you.
I think for me, it's being the person you wish to become.
To me, I think it's like people who don't want you to be yourself are not the people that you're going to want to surround yourself with, because they're not.
I love this quote, and it really ties into our value of authenticity. And usually, well, like in my work with students too, but ourselves, personal power is so important. And when we give away the power to others, especially those that just, they don't deserve the power, they don't want it for our best interest, that yeah, it takes away from our personal power and our personal growth.
Could you read the quote again, Eden?
Yeah, be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind.
So this quote like makes me feel like no matter what, like probably 30-something years ago, or longer, probably, a bunch of people, sorry, I'm not that old, a bunch of I'm so sorry, but if that's really offensive, but I'm not trying to be. But like, people probably never thought there could be female astronauts, there could never be female doctors, there could never be anything like related to females, because like females are basically supposed to be housewives, but like people who matter don't really care. Well, yeah, people who matter don't care about what you're saying or what you want to be or who you want to be. They'll just go along with you, and the people that do care, they're not supposed to be your friends or they're not supposed to be supporting you.
I love what you said. To me, it's a very powerful statement. It's one that is about you believing in yourself, accepting yourself. And even if it can be hard to do that at times, because you might say things people might not agree with, in the end, you have to believe in yourself. And I think if you can do that, you can believe and accept other people too. Because it starts with yourself, and then it kind of radiates out.
The quote, like, it makes me feel like you should be yourself and not care what other people think, because people who judge you don't really matter in your life. You just need to worry about how you think of yourself and make sure that you have a positive look at your life, and you need to find the friends that help you go places instead of hold you back.
Yeah, the quote means like just be yourself, and it's okay. Like I think it's like everyone judges everyone, just depending on how you judge the person. But yeah, just be yourself.
You can go a lot of different directions with this one. In this particular context, as a school board member, I'm introverted, which can be a disadvantage as a public, as a member of the school board. I'm not much of a talker. So instead of trying to become a talker, I try to lead by example.
I think this quote is basically just saying, like, don't worry about what anybody thinks, because, you know, just be yourself. It doesn't really matter. Just make yourself feel comfortable about yourself. And I think everybody needs this reminder every once in a while, especially me, because I'm always constantly worried about what other people think of me when I should really think about that.
I think we all do that, and I love this quote too. It starts out with "be yourself," and that's really the key to it. But then the catchy part is those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. And to me, that says if you're going to try to act or be the way that someone else wants you to be, or what you think someone else wants you to be, you're giving up ownership of yourself. You're allowing other people to own who you are, and that's not a good thing. So you can be yourself. They don't have that ownership over you, and you control your own destiny.
I think it's a good quote because it's telling you that if you just be yourself, you get more done with it if you worry about what other people think, even though that really doesn't matter.
So I'm mixed, and I've had lots of trouble with like finding who I am because of that. And I just like how the quote says, like, you don't have to be normal to be loved.
It's a great quote, and it's really a journey for all of us that you do your whole life, remembering to be who you are and stay true to that.
I think this is a good quote because if they care about something that you're not good at, then they aren't really your friend because they should just care about what you're good at.
I love this quote. Dr. Seuss is just a guy. And I think that, like, there's like this image of what society wants you to be, and it's you gotta be who you are. And once you start accepting yourself, then other people will start accepting you. And
I have 3 daughters, and
We had lots of conversations as they were growing up about tough times, and the quote reminds me of two of those. We've always tried to tell our daughters, and it's like what Shannon said, the most important decision you will make is who you want to hang around with and be influenced by. And the choice is whether you want to be with someone popular or someone who respects you for who you are. So that was our first lesson. And the second one is when you're faced with difficult decisions and you don't know which way to go, trust your heart.
Do we have time to do that? Okay. So now we're going to do a power clap. Do you want me to describe it?
Please do.
Okay. So let's all stand up. A power clap is something that's really empowering. So you all put your feet to other people's feet so your toes are touching. And on the count of 3, we're all going to clap at the same time. And
What you can do.
am I okay? So who wants to do it? Does anyone want to run it?
Before we do that, do you want to explain why we do the clap right now?
It creates unity and it ends it, and it just ends in a powerful way. I don't know how else to explain it.
That's perfect. It was lovely.
Okay. Just go. 1, 2, 3. Woo!
All right.
Oh, that's like our centerpiece. 3 people brought in talking pieces, and you put like values, you put like guidelines, you put whatever you want in there. Okay.
What do those mean?
I don't know what the
Yeah,
go ahead.
Why don't you just quickly explain your talking piece?
Mine's a soccer ball. I've been playing soccer since I was 5, and it like means a lot to me because my sister has always played it too, and she's been my role model from like the time I was younger, and I always look up to her.
Mine's like a little puzzle of a horse that I got when I was little when I went to the West Park. And I guess I ride horses and I learned a lot of lessons.
I just brought in like a little rock because I've always thought that this was really pretty, and it's in my living room, and I don't know, I just like holding on to it, like feeling it and everything, going around the circles. So that's kind of why I brought it.
I want to guess maybe do you want to take the time just to answer any questions?
Oh yeah.
How many people are usually in a circle?
In like a circle that I've run, we've had up to 5, because we have 2 circle keepers. We have like the person who's there, and they bring a friend, and then we have like Miss Foster, Mr. Anderson, and yeah, and then we also have a circle keeper, which drivers.
So you never have a circle like this?
No, not really.
Not in maybe a setting like this, but we do circles in our connections class this year.
Okay.
And so we have
Every Tuesday,
about 14, 15, 16 kids do kind of a similar activity with some questions that they're given or that they create in the class, and they do it kind of similar, but ours are usually a little more personal.
And our staff has done circles too. So we'll have 50 staff members. Takes a long time.
So when you have like a conflict or something, do you send them like an invitation, or is it like circle time, your time?
They choose if they want it instead of
Do
like.
they come to you?
They can come to us. They can come to Miss Quast. They can come to Mr. Iverson, Miss Anderson, whoever.
Do you ever come to them?
No.
Oh. Just questions.
So when there is a problem like this, there was obviously no problems, but it was a demonstration of how it worked. So how do you approach the problem?
It depends on the problem. If we're there for a support circle, we support them. We give them some ideas on how to help with their problems.
So it's more of a discussion then?
Yes.
Okay.
So
So when you do it, do you have a theme or a focus for a circle? I mean, you might have another circle with a different focus.
Yes.
Theme?
So we have support circles, which is to obviously support someone to help them. We have a circle for like conflict. Like say they've been getting into fights, then we can do this and we can find like other options or help them out. Or like if they're targeting a ton of classes, then we can help them with that and find a better way.
And also a great thing too is that the students are invited to have a follow-up circle, kind of then a couple weeks after to see how they're doing. And then, yeah, and what I like too is that our gym members will then go out of their way too to offer support on the hallways too.
A lot of the focus, I think, is on learning some skills in terms of dealing with conflict.
Yes.
But one of the other issues I think that sometimes needs to be addressed is sometimes there are things that have to be unlearned in terms of attitudes or prejudices, things that sometimes are learned over a long period of time. And I'm just wondering how you approach getting at those kind of concerns.
Does anybody want to jump in from the group here?
I can talk too.
I think the question is, some other students may come to a circle with some learned behaviors, and maybe something that we need to kind of work on, maybe shifting their understanding or their thought process about a certain topic. And so I think the question was how do we work on unlearning some of those undesired behaviors? Izzy and Erin?
You can give them tips and pointers on how to, like, if they've learned, like, if they have like troubles at home and they're starting to bring those like actions or feelings to school, you can give them tips on how to like not have it come up, or like to calm themselves down, or to have a different mindset instead of thinking about what's going on at home, and just have fun with friends at school, and to realize that they're in a safe place at school with their friends.
Basically what Izzy said, like we give them advice on how to like solve a problem, or like how to, like let's say I had a circle once where this kid was bullying another like mentally disabled kid, and like we gave him advice on like what his friend pressured him into doing it, so we gave him advice on like how to like tell his friend to stop or to not be friends with him, or we just like, yeah, we basically give him advice to not do that anymore.
If I can interject, what's really key too is it's not even, you're giving advice, but also that's where the vulnerability piece comes in. A lot of times it's you guys, the RJ members, giving, stating your own personal experiences that you've gone through. It might not be exactly the same, but similar experiences. I've gone through something like that. I've got, sucked into going along with a friend. And this is what I've learned and passing that on.
Another thing is like, I'll say like my opinion, and I won't say it in a way that it's like your opinion's wrong. I'll say, here's just another way to look at it. Give them another angle of view instead of just saying, here's some ideas.
Yeah, we just want to create like a comfortable environment to help solve the problem as peacefully as we can. And I think having peers in a circle creates a setting that's more balanced. And I just think that circles are just a really powerful way to help resolve conflict.
Yeah, we usually start with like getting to know the person, so it's not like we jump right into like what's happening. We'll like ask them questions, and then we'll tell stories about us so that we can get to know them better, and then they can like open up more and things like that.
What are the things that you've done that seem to be most useful in encouraging a little bit of introspection or reflection, so people sort of think a little bit about how and what they do?
I like history, and what I'm finding too is that this has a long history of indigenous peoples solving problems rather than having something top down. It's a consensus, and it's very helpful. And I have to say that thank you, and I'm totally impressed because I have been curious about restorative justice, and being a participant in it has made it even more powerful. Thank you.
My son was a student here 2 years ago, and I remember him telling me about connections. Is that once a week?
Oh, it's every day, but the circles are on Tuesdays.
Okay. Is RJ like the next logical step to connections, or how did RJ Club come about?
We have been doing the circle and connections for 5 years. And then the restorative justice program takes a circle format. So it's just a different type of circle, I guess I would say. And initially when Jim and I was an associate principal when the program started, we know that suspensions and punitive discipline make people feel alienated from schools, not connected. And one of the reasons we wanted to do this with you, hopefully you feel very connected to everyone in this circle. And the idea is that when something bad happens or someone needs support, a circle helps bring you into a community and restore and make you feel loved and supported, not alienated and excluded. So from a discipline standpoint, we were trying to bring a tool that helps. Growing up is about making mistakes, but we wanted to put something in that helps people feel supported with their peers is a layer to really discipline is kind of what we were trying to make better.
I'm wondering, sometimes you find that people that may be part of the problem and also part of the solution aren't part of the circle. And I'm wondering how you might reach out to and involve and draw people into the circle that really need to be part of the solution.
Good question. Can you copy?
What do we have, like allies? Like, they're request a student to bring a friend in, that could be there to support them.
I think maybe that's
What's the question again?
how do we involve those outside of the circle that are part of the solution and the problem?
We were working with a girl earlier this year, and she was having a lot of trouble with like people and just herself too. And like we were saying, like, here are other options, and then we're also here. You can become part of our community and stay away from the people who are hurting you and letting the people in who aren't hurting you. Like we gave them more than just there's a problem here, but you should stay with it. And we gave them more options and what to say to them too.
Let's give our students a round of applause for speaking about the ideas. Great job, guys.
So for those of you who are interested, school board members, I'd like to take the next 10 minutes or so and walk you through our new office space. Since the real purpose of our secure office was to create a secure entrance, we're going to experience that, so you're also going to get a little fresh air in the process.
Never have too much fresh air.
So a few people have asked me why we still have the fences up. And that's really because we think mud and middle schoolers, not a good combination. So we will have this space landscaped in the spring. And when we designed this space, we added benches and this planter because we knew that we wanted to have spaces where kids could sit and hang out. We didn't have that in our space before. And so kids are using the benches and they're starting to get onto the planter and sit and hang out and wait. And so we kind of wanted to create a space where kids could just chill as they're coming and going. So we're going to go through the secure entrance if you were to come during the school day. The first door would be unlocked, and then you would go into the vestibule where you would buzz to get in. So when parents come in, they can get out of the elements, they wait. The buzzer system, the secretaries can talk to the person, see why they're here before they actually let them in. So we'll just go through that entrance.
Thank you.
on in.
To get busted.
Oh, that's it.
Very nice. So,
Thank you. So our attendance secretary sits here, so when families come in to pick up their child for a dentist appointment or whatever, or a child comes in late, they come here, they sign in, and then our other head secretary sits in this space. We moved in right after winter break. We're still waiting on some furniture pieces. We clearly need to, some of you remember I used to be an art teacher. We're working on the aesthetics. So hopefully in the next couple months, we'll have some things up on the wall and a few more furniture pieces in here. So I know it's a little sparse, but we'll be cutening it up shortly. One of the pieces that we have in this new space is a new health room, and there's only one way in and out, so I'm just going to open it up and you can poke your head in there. You'll also notice that there's a bathroom in there as well. That space has been working so well just to have natural light. Has been a really nice space for our kids, so feel free to poke your heads in there. Oh, yeah, you school it.
Wow. People are going to be fake and sick.
It's an upgrade from what it
Like,
used to be.
My arm really hurts. I really need to go to the nurse.
And then we have, in this space, the associate principal's office, the principal's office, and then we have a staff bathroom that has really nice tile. One of my favorite parts. So feel free to meander into those three spaces. During the day, awesome natural lighting in this place. It's very, very bright. So it's a really nice calming space that we've created. All right.
Like the child? Yeah? Did you pick that out?
A designer did. We just were like, yes, we like that.
Actually, the door was open.
Sorry. Do you have any questions about our office space?
What became of the old space?
Oh, that's a great question. Our student services team had been really cramped, and we were sharing offices, and so we have moved our student services secretary, Brenda Knipfer, some of you know her, we moved her into the old main office space. So she has a lot more space, and we've kind of created a little area where kids can hang out. Courtney, the counselor that you met tonight, moved into my old office. So she has more space. She can actually do groups in her office now. And then our Schools of Hope office, which used to be tucked way back in the corner, is now in Josh's old office. So that's much more accessible for our 30 tutors. We just hit 30 tutors last week. So they're not having to go all the way down there, can just come in and out. And so that's working really well. And then we have some additional office space that then opened up, domino effect, that like our OT or PT online, when our new social worker comes in to meet with students. So we have some flexible office spaces where we can ensure some privacy. So that's been really nice to have. So we just kind of spread out. We were pretty cramped for office space before.
We're going to do a remodeling project. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. One of the things, like restorative justice, what you saw tonight, we have a lot of groups, including RJ, and they have no space to meet. So they go into empty classrooms, and it's been really tight. And so we're going to be knocking out one wall this summer in our old main office to the health room, our old health room. And that space will become our refocus room. So that is a supervised space where student, either for the behavior plans or if there's a discipline issue, they're going to have access to a bathroom. In a different space. In our old refocus room, which is a full-size classroom, we're going to repurpose that for all of our student services groups, so they have a place to go. We can also use it for professional development, for meetings.
large IEP team meetings, because one of the things we wanted out of this was another conference room. Our conference room is booked all the time, so then that gives us another space for student groups and staff groups and meetings. So there'll be some more shifting. Andy and I met with Findorf this morning, and they'll be breaking ground this spring on our next phase, and there'll be a lot of remodeling over the summer. So you're just gonna have to come back for another tour in about a year, because this is just the beginning of the awesomeness that our community has supported for our learners. So we're really excited about all the changes. Other questions?
Shannon, we've had a lot of conversations lately, concerns about AODA issues, and I'm just wondering if those are issues that are going to be more easily addressed with the reconfiguration here that you've got in terms of place. Things like, I know cyberbullying have been raised as an issue, and I'm concerned. I'm just wondering if anything's happening in that area. In terms of...
Is in relationship to space, or?
Well, no, I was thinking partly in terms of restorative justice stuff that we were talking about earlier, whether the groups are able to deal with those kind of issues as well.
Well, we do have some of our student services groups do focus. Like we have one student services group that just focuses with people who have concerned persons within their family. So if a child has a parent or a sibling who's using, we do have some groups there. Sometimes we have to be really careful. We talked about confidentiality tonight. In some cases, it really depends. A student might not want peers knowing that there are some AODA elements there. That's certainly something that could be an option. We really, at the middle school, we do have some AODA issues, but I would say we're much more in the preventative, proactive domain at this age level. So I don't know if that answers.
Yeah.
We certainly would use it as a tool, but a child really has to be comfortable sharing that with peers, or otherwise we'd put in some other supports. Work with Teresa Nicholas a lot. She's doing a great job whenever we have a need. She's been really responsive.
And we have to get parent consent before we do circles.
Yeah.
If we're going to share a discipline.
Yeah.
Anything like, we always talk to parents on both sides of the issue and say, one thing we offer is restorative justice. Is this something you'd be interested in your student participation?
Peer pressure and influence are really powerful and important sometimes in addressing those kind of issues.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how restorative justice or some kind of process like that might be used as an effective way of helping build some peer support and pressure for better behavior.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the whole, we as staff are here to support our learners, but there's a different power when it's coming from their peers. And you saw the 8th grade restorative justice speakers today, but what's really powerful is when an 8th grader runs a circle and then they see that 7th grader that they supported 2 weeks later in tears, they reach out to them, they help them, they support them. And I hope that those relationships continue when they go off to high school too. It's definitely something that we're working on. Value. So, great questions. Anything else? All right. So that concludes our middle school session of the board meeting.
Your show and tell.
My show and tell has ended. So
Thank
I think
you,
we're
Shannon.
back to the
So
tables where we were originally. Thank you for the rest of the meeting.
So, at this time, we will take any communication from the public. Is there anyone from the public at this time that would like to address the board? Is there any member of the public at this time that would like to address the board? Is there any member of the public at this time that would like to address the board? We will, seeing no one is coming forward, we will move then to item C on the agenda, our only action item, from the Financial Assets Committee, approval to use up to $250,000 from Fund 21 for installation of fencing and lighting at J.C. Park East. Andy.
Thank you. The Finance Advisory Committee got together about a week ago or so and talked a little bit about possibility of obtaining sponsorships for enhancements to J.C. Park East. If you recall, we put about $500,000 in infrastructure in there. There's a little bit of money remaining, but for the most part, the large allocations of funds are pretty much utilities and resurfacing the areas and redistributing the areas so that it sheds water appropriately. That money's been spent. So there is a concern and a desire to actually be able to use those fields this spring, which is coming very rapidly as the snow melted this weekend. And we have identified a couple of the projects that we wanted to get done. The two main projects that we wanted to do are continue to finish the lighting project for the soccer field so that the soccer field could be used by the girls team this year. You may have noticed these 4 things that stick out of the ground if you drive by there. Those are the bases that were installed, and there's conduit that goes from the bases to a central location. So we'd like to basically get the lights, and if we order them tomorrow, I've got them kind of on hold, we believe that we can get them here early in April with the Musco folks. So we already have pricing established. That was guaranteed a number of years ago. We had that locked in, and so that's all ready to roll. With the lighting also comes putting in the electrical service. That we'll be working on in the next couple weeks with Alliant Energy, and we may have to work together with the hockey rink in order to get an easement on their property or on the village's property. We haven't determined that yet. And then lastly, we'd like to fence the area in, and because that's going to be the front door to our school district for our high school, we're looking to do maybe a nicer fence, not just a chain link fence, but some type of decorative fence on Perry Parkway. So together we identified about $250,000 worth of expenditures, up to $250,000. And the hope is that we could find some sponsorships if the committee feels comfortable with that. We had some discussion about that, what kind of naming rights and those types of things they would feel comfortable with. But since there was a timing issue of trying to get ready for the sports seasons that are on their way toward us, the committee said, well, would there be another funding source that permanently or temporarily we could utilize in order to get these things done? And I suggested that perhaps Fund 21 would be utilized for that. Fund 21, if you recall, is the money from the Community Ed Fund that was transferred this last year. It was a one-time opportunity to do that. And you have authorized about $60,000 or $70,000 for lighting improvements at the Performing Arts Center out of that fund already. We did transfer around, gosh, I'm trying to remember, it was between $600,000 and $700,000 into that Fund 21 from Community Ed. So there is plenty of money to be able to take care of this $250,000. And the nice thing about Fund 21 is it is a gift fund. It's where DPI decided we could park the Community Ed money, but it's actually the fund that if somebody would give us a gift, that's where we put that money, or a donation, those types of things. So if a community member or whatever wanted to donate monies to the school district, that's where those funds would go, so it could replenish the $250,000 loan if we ask for people to help us contribute and finish the park. Mr. Carr and I have identified about, if we were actually going to have that park completely done with all the amenities that we would want, that means lights on the baseball field, the softball fields, they're very expensive items, as well as bathrooms and those types of things, press boxes, we're probably in the neighborhood of needing $1.25 million. So we've got a long-range potential project there that we'll be looking for funding sources for, but this would be at least a path to utilizing the park as it is, having that $250,000 available. So that's, and committee members that were there, if I missed anything, feel free to add.
So let's just be clear, and then we'll move on to discussion. This comes to the board as an approved item from committee. So there is a motion now on the table by bringing this forward. There doesn't need to be a second. So the motion is the approval of this recommendation. Charles?
Yeah, Andy, what other things are likely to come out of Fund 21? Do we have any other projects that are
really up to the
in waiting?
board. It's community improvement type of expenditures. So it could be, for instance, one of the other things that we've talked about, and you may have read about them, is the splash pad. Perhaps could partially be funded out of something like this. That's something that we've been talking a little bit about with the Optimist.
No other major projects on this?
What's that?
No other major projects at this point?
Those are the only things that have been identified so far that I'm aware of.
The Arts Initiative.
Well,
Can you
the-
say what the splash pad is?
I'm sorry?
Splash pad, what is that?
The splash pad is a zero depth pool, I guess. It's not really a pool. There's no pool involved. It's just basically water that could be utilized to cool people off in kind of a fun way.
They're really
I guess
fun.
they
It's
have
like,
one.
It's like a big concrete pad,
Yeah.
and it has water squirting up in random places.
Yeah.
And you go run around and like kids play in them, but like you can't drown. 'Cause there's, like you said, there's no depth. They're really fun.
They have a new one over at McKee Park.
Yeah, somewhere, I don't know, I took my kids there.
McKee Park in
It's
Fitchburg.
Park.
We're there every weekend if you want to come and see what it's about in the summer.
super fun.
Not now?
Not now.
Gwen?
What? I was going to ask about the Arts Initiative.
Arts Initiative was never, well, I always envisioned it coming out of Community Ed, not Fund 21. It could come out of Fund 21.
So Fund 21 is not community ed.
Nope. It was a one-time transfer of money from Community Ed to Fund 21. Now there are no real restrictions on those funds, except it has to be used for improvement of community-related facilities. The Arts Initiative, we actually have levied in Fund 80 as a Community Ed project. And there are some limitations on that you and I have talked about.
I do have some questions about this project. Is costing $750,000 at this point, with the approval from the previous school board was $500,000, and you know, and there was some ethical issues about that approval from some of the members who were closely associated with the soccer field, and watching that field be developed, there was a lot of moving dirt around a lot. And I don't mean to, that wasn't belittlement, I didn't know how else to express it. Is there any way that the board, before we vote on this, can understand the costs of all this? Because adding another $250,000 when, you know, we're coming up with, and I understand that they're different funds, but it's still money, taxpayers' money, that, you know, we could be thinking about personnel and, you know, people that, and I understand there's a
Can't be talking about personnel with these funds.
I understand that, but if they've been shifted around, there's no way to shift them around again.
I don't know how to answer that, if there's a question there.
Well, and then I guess it's like, is it possible to see some of the receipts for the field? Because it's hard for me to understand a field costing $500,000, and then on top of it, another $250,000, because it's beyond my understanding at this point, and if I could see receipts, then I could understand it better and make a better informed judgment on this particular thing. And leaving it, you know, using, saying that we have to make a decision tonight, when there's no background on this, makes me nervous.
So, couple things as a reaction. One is the original.
I'm being authentic.
Sure. It's not just one field; it's multiple fields. There's
Right.
actually there'll be a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fields in total when it's all done. Another thing is the original plan for this area was supposed to cost $4.5 million. We think we're going to have it finished with everything would be around $1.75 million. So the original $500,000 plus 1.25, and the intent when this went to the Finance Advisory Committee was to see if we could raise some money from the community. Or
How much do you think we can raise?
We think we have somewhere around 175,000 committed, or loosely, and we haven't tried too hard yet.
So then you were asking $250,000 above that?
No, the 250, it's the same, the 250 and the 175 are kind of the same numbers as the, I'm trying to repeat the discussion that happened that morning, but basically, we came to the committee saying, how do you feel about these donations, these naming right sponsorship type situations? And as the committee worked through that, there was some uncomfortability with some of that. the question was asked, are there other funding sources? And then that's when I mentioned Fund 21 as potential.
Are those guarantees? They're not guarantees.
No, we don't have an agreement with them yet, and the board would have to approve that eventually, if they wanted to do that. So the only problem with waiting, and I mean, we'll still play soccer if we wait, is that we won't be utilizing those fields at night, which is typically when our teams play in the spring.
Ray?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, and I'm one of 3 members of the Financial Assets Committee, and that meeting I know was organized in very short notice, and with knowing that I wasn't able to be at that meeting. So forgive me for these questions, but the fact that the meeting happened and I couldn't be there, I was out of town, I'd like to have some answers to some specifics. So number 1 is, how much right now is in the Fund 21?
Off the top of my head, it's probably in the $600,000 range. I'd have to look.
Okay.
If I would have had that question ahead of time, I could have given you an exact number.
It's about 600,000. And do we have any money earmarked within that fund for other projects right now? Is it okay if I have
Not to my
questions
knowledge.
to go on? Okay. So we don't have any other earmarked at this point in time?
Yeah, and I need to be careful a little bit because Fund 21 actually technically holds a lot more than the 600,000 that I talked, 600 to 700,000 that I talked about moving from community ed. It actually is probably over $1 million. So there are other components of Fund 21 that, when I mentioned that number, I'm not including. So that fund actually probably has closer to $1 million. And what we used to call student activity accounts are actually run out of that fund as well, based on DPI's recommendations. So just to clarify that. But the 600 to 700,000 that we brought from Fund 20, or from Community Ed Fund to Fund 21, the only thing that we've designated out of that money has been what the board has approved, which is high $60,000, $70,000 for lighting improvements at the Performing Arts Center a couple months ago.
A few more questions.
Go ahead.
Thank you much. The other question is this the only information that was provided for this action item? I just want to know if I'm missing anything, because there's a purple sheet and then the minutes from the Financial Assets Committee meeting?
That's correct.
Okay, so what I was hoping to see, because to me, there's a couple issues here. Number 1, we had allocated $500,000, the previous board, for this project, and I think it'd be helpful for such a large amount of money in terms of a discussion item here and an action item to, number 1, have more information on how that $500,000 was spent, and then beyond that, to have a projected budget for $250,000. Because I'm not seeing any numbers here telling me, okay, we're going to spend $250,000, which is a fair amount for the board to authorize. And I would think, given that, it'd be real helpful to have some numbers saying, number 1, how much is the lighting going to cost? What kind of fences are we going to be putting on? How much will that cost? You know, I mean, that's pretty much general practice, I think, to have a budget when we're talking about money of this scope.
So
And
Dr. Davis has shared with me that we had provided an accounting of the $500,000 before, so we can do that again if you would like.
okay.
The lighting costs around, I'm trying to remember from the proposal, but I have actual proposals on it. I want to say it's around $90,000 to put up the lights onto the posts. And then we're actually meeting with Alliant this week. I think numbers around $5,000 has been bantered about in order to get the power to the facility. And then the conduit's in the ground, but we'll have to pull wires to those light structures, so probably around $10,000 there too. The fencing structures, we haven't determined the exact fencing that we're putting in. There's a couple components to fencing. One is the perimeter fencing around the facility, and as I mentioned before, we'll do chain link around probably the back side of it, the 3 sides, not on Perry Parkway, but we're looking for either kind of an architectural fencing along Perry Parkway to kind of spruce that up a little bit. And so I don't have exact numbers, but we had estimated that cost would be around around $125,000 range, something in that area. And then the other component to that is fencing for the baseball field, which would be a backstop for the JV field. It'll eventually be the varsity field, but for this year, it'd just be the JV field, so that the kids can play baseball there.
Now, at this point, have you gotten bids? Have you gotten 3 bids on this, so we have some numbers to work with, or where are we at in that process?
Well, Alliant Energy, you don't really bid.
I'm thinking
They're
more like
utility.
the fencing.
We don't have pricing on that. We just have budget numbers right now. So we're trying to get that in place fairly soon.
So then the $125,000 budget for the fencing, or that number is?
Just an estimate right now.
Estimate. Okay. Then I also had questions about the potential for raising funds. I thought we had talked about that at a previous meeting, that maybe the money for even the lighting and the fencing would come out of some fundraising that would be done by different organizations. So I was hoping maybe you could speak to that, if that's taken place and where we're at with that, and would that maybe then allow us not to have to allocate $250,000?
Well, I think that was the thinking at the Finance Advisory Committee, and the members that were there can speak as well to this. The idea is we were starting to do the fundraising component, and as we had been working with different community partners out there, we had thrown some ideas out, and we wanted to come back to the board or the committee to make sure the committee was comfortable with those ideas. And as we got into some of the intricacies of that, I think there was some uncomfortableness, and that's when the question was asked, do we have another funding source? And that's why we're here tonight.
Thank you very much.
Steve?
Appreciate it.
Oh, sorry. Can I just ask a question to clarify?
Sure.
So you're just thinking you would use fund, what is it, 21? 21 right now, so that you could get them in for the spring season. You would then fundraise to maybe replace that fund.
Yeah,
That
that
money out of-
was the idea.
Right. Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Steve?
Thank you. As you know, I'm a big supporter of the project of J.C. Park East, and I've been a big supporter of that from the beginning, and the genesis of that arose a long time ago, about 2008, because we did not have a dedicated soccer field for our high school athletes. The current field we use is on Panther Stadium, and that's not a regulation size field. And so the WI has suggested that schools dedicate their own soccer field. So that became part of the genesis for looking towards space to develop a competition soccer field for both our female and male athletes at the high school. And at the same time, we have an issue related to our girls softball program at the high school, because they are using the Kaiser Park fields and run into conflicts from time to time with the village fields, and those aren't dedicated to the high school students. And so there was an equity issue in terms of providing girls softball with a field, and there was also a perceived need to light a baseball field in towns for use by the community. So all of that started percolating over a period of time, which led us to look toward J.C. Park East and to approach the village with a proposal to deed that over to the district for purposes of the district developing that over time. And that happened. And we were able to find a financing means by which to do the beginning work of that, which involved a lot of groundwork, which occurred over the last year. And that was refinancing long-term debt so that we had $500,000 available at no cost to the taxpayers, and whose funds were limited to projects such as this to do that. So it seemed to fall right in place. That dovetailed really nicely with the new project at the high school, where we had to deal with water runoff and plan for that. And that tied in with work that is ongoing, is to create an area in J.C. Park East that's tiled, but then to run storm water through there as we develop it, and run that out past the a hockey facility into a detention pond, which would then go into Badfish Creek. So that tied into well with this project as it's currently being developed. And so the $500,000 was always understood to do that beginning work in that area, which was low, which was former swamp, and to make it available for purposes of our school. And if you look at any other school in the area, in districts in Dane County, they have significant space allocated for purposes of recreation. And you heard at our visioning conference this summer how important those activities are to our students and to our community. So we needed to expand as we have grown in programs, and this is a place to do it. The next step is then taking what we now have a usable ground structure for that, and now we have to put the amenities on it. And there's been an effort over the last couple of years to identify how that park looks and then to begin fundraising for that. And that's what we're doing. And I've been involved in that with a couple other people in the community, going to various places to get their temperature check in terms of donating for development of that project and those amenities. We're not at the point now where we can put that forth because we have some work to do with respect to policy and have those discussions. We have to follow up in terms of agreements, but things are working well in that regard. We have, Andy, I think we have more. We've got some financial commitment that is in the range that Andy's talking about, but in addition to that, we have another probably $50,000 to $100,000 in people willing to donate various portions of that park, like dugouts and scoreboards. We have various groups who are going to be using that are going to be willing to fundraise for that. I've talked to the athletic boosters, the youth soccer group, and also the youth softball to do that. And whether that makes up the whole cost of that, we're not sure yet. But I can tell you one thing, right now, if we want to be able to use that, and we should, now that we've gotten space, what we need to do is to allocate funds to get those lights up and to get the fencing in to secure that. We should do that already. Since we have that invested into the groundwork, we need to take means to secure that area, and just putting fencing up, which is going to happen anyway, needs to be done, and we can get the lights up at this point in time. In the perfect world, we would have for you, the plan honed down, all the bids in that in shape, the donors in line, but the world doesn't work neatly like that, and so we're a little bit askew in terms of coming to you, but it makes sense. We have the funds available in Fund 21. They're designed specifically, that fund is designed specifically for this purpose. It's for the community long term. We've allocated funds from Fund 21 for other recreational purposes, so it's not like this is the only thing that's going on. There are some other things going on. Andy and I have talked about sound in the PAC as well, in improving that, but this is well within the scope of what we've got in Fund 21. It's consistent with what needs to be done in that area. It's at no additional taxpayer expense, and frankly, it serves the community as a whole. It's a really good project, and it needs to be done.
Charles. Andy, has there been any indication of interest on the part of the village of perhaps sharing some of the cost of additional improvements? Obviously, part of the intent of this fund is not only for the school, but also for the community. I'm just wondering if there's any interest on the part of the village in helping with some of the amenities.
Yeah, Brian just mentioned the stormwater. We do have an agreement with the village that you approved to help the community in that area with some stormwater, and their commitment's up to $140,000 for that. Other than that, no. The park board's funds are pretty limited. I sit on the park board for the school district.
There's also some discussion of extending South Prairie Parkway, and
That's,
whether that's going to include lighting You know, whether,
Well, it would be lighting for the road, sure.
Road, yeah.
But that's in its second year of engineering, so they did some engineering last year, they're doing engineering this year, is my understanding, and that work should actually happen in the summer of 2017 is the plan. So they will be extending that road, which is like $1 million commitment. At least that's what their general budget was in order to do that, to get it through the wetlands. So from my point of view, I think they're contributing with that project, and we've kind of pushed them on that path a little bit because it's a good project to put the road through. It kind of does create our main entrance for the high school, and it also helps the neighborhoods with reducing the amount of traffic that goes through those residential areas.
Then Charlie, these are primarily going to be varsity level fields
yeah.
for use by our athletes. Now, we've let city residents do that, but in the broader scope of thing, we're letting district residents use it, not just the Village of Oregon.
Sure.
So there becomes that question: is if we're looking district wide for those funds, why do you put the double burden on the villages because they're placed within the village?
Gwen?
I'm just wondering, do we have any sort of information in terms of what the usage has been of that area historically, in terms of village versus district-wide use?
Well, it hasn't been, well, the JV field was used for that, and the soccer field was used, but it will be much greater use by the school now that they're dedicated, and frankly, because it was lowland in the summer. If it was a wet summer, the usability of that was questionable at best. I remember.
Would swamp be appropriate?
I remember walking through there when it was a cornfield in a swamp before it got, and that's why we needed to do the work that we've done in there. The $500,000 was. That was not an insignificant project to get that tiled and elevated to the point where it's going to be usable without question about the weather. We're not significantly above the water.
Quite a mound of dirt still out there.
So that's related to, good question, that's related to the stormwater pipe that was put in there this fall, as well as the creation of the parking lot. Those are the spoils of those projects, and that will be used to level the softball diamonds. There's 2 of them there. That is outside of the $500,000 because it was related to the referendum of costs of putting in the stormwater pipe. But that will be designed so that it shuts the water off, just like the other areas.
Charles, on a nice, sunny, warm Tuesday or Thursday in spring or in fall, and you walk out on those fields, even last year, there could be anywhere from 200 to 500 people watching soccer and or youth softball, and now our high school girls softball team. So the use it's just phenomenal.
Do we have any idea what the ongoing operational cost will be for the lighting in terms of?
Insignificant. I mean, it's not a big deal.
Do you have a ballpark?
A few $100.
And our electrical bill is, as a district.
Electrical bill, $600-some thousand a year.
Just to give you a context, and then minus what we're able to recapture with the solar panel projects.
It was probably fairly limited time that we're actually using those lights too.
That's why. I mean, we could get LED lights on there, but that would add $50,000 to the cost of the lights. It just doesn't pay for itself. So eventually that'll be going there, but the LEDs costs right now just significantly more than the traditional lighting methods. And that's it. They're not on for a couple hours, a couple times a week.
Is that it? Yep. Okay, Gwen.
First of all, I want to make it perfectly clear to all here that I think that the sports fields are important. With that being said, I don't like the process of how this was brought before the board. It has very little information with it, and we're being told to just vote on it. and we're being told to vote for it. And I find it disingenuous to our constituents to vote on something for $250,000 that's on top of $500,000 without more information. I also have a question about, is referendum, it was my understanding that there was some referendum money that was going into this project. Is that a false assumption on my part?
The referendum dollars that are going into it, I just mentioned a moment ago, is related to the stormwater pipe that was put in there, and then the spreading of the spoils and the parking lot that was created.
The word referendum wasn't mentioned, but and the other thing is there seems to be a constant, this evening, comparison of spending $60,000 on a fine arts PAC thing, but $60,000 is not $250,000. That's $250,000 we're talking about. Once again, I am very concerned about priorities of this district and how it spends its money when we still rent from an ice hockey rink for a school that is essential to a school within a school that's essential, and we can never find money for that, for Oasis, and which has risen our graduation rate. And I just find it sort of, and I understand that, you know, there are funds, but I also know that money is constantly being moved around throughout the world. It's a global issue, and that, you know, if we want something, we always get it. And, you know, if we wanted to spend money on a definitive place for a learning academic place, like for Oasis, we would do it. But we would rather spend money on soccer, even though it probably, in fields, and again, I'm not anti-sports, but at the same time, I'm concerned about the imbalance, and the people that I talk to are not the same people that you speak to, Steve. And, you know, they will question this as a board. We will be questioned for this, as why we are spending another $250,000. And I cannot answer that without having more information in front of me. Like, I like what Ray said in terms of, you know, what is the estimated cost of the fencing? Instead of telling us, the oral manifestation is it needs to, you know, it needs to be written down. And I think that that's the way it should be done. It should be done with any type of finances. Don't tell us, write it down so that we can study it. And even the minutes really say nothing. And I just feel really pressured and a little bit, I'm not sure what I know about the right word, but I feel like I'm being pressured to vote on something that I'm not prepared to vote on tonight. I'll be happy to vote on it in March when I see the figures. And I probably will vote yes.
So if you'd like, I do have a plan Mr. Carr put together when we were going out to talk to sponsorships. I'd be happy to put it up on the board right now. You can look at it. It's a general budget for the area. If that helps, I apologize I didn't include it. I was just bringing forward the recommendation from the Finance Advisory Committee.
Right, I understand that, and you know, it's no harm done. It's just that this is.
Well, it kind of feels like there's some harm done.
Well, you know, I'm being authentic, and if you want to feel injured, that's you can do that. But it's, you know, this is business. This is $250,000, and I perfectly understand the historical aspects of this. Thank you, Steve, for bringing that forward. But oftentimes, when we're asked to vote on something, we have a lot more information in front of us. And I don't think that that is, I'm not being mean, I'm being responsible.
If you'd like to see the plan, I'm happy to put it up.
Sure.
Would you do that while we continue the discussion? Thanks, Andy. Barb.
I think Andy has brought to us a reasonable estimate of what this is going to cost. He has said the lighting will be in the vicinity of $90,000. And then there will be some additional costs for running the conduit and the wires, and then installation of fencing. I don't think it's typical for the school board to be poring over bids. I don't think that's our job. That's the business manager's job. So he's given us an estimate, not an exact estimate of what it's going to be, but he asked the finance committee to approve an amount that he thought would be sufficient, so he wouldn't have to come back and ask for more. It could come in at less. I think, it's obvious that this park needs to have the fencing and the lighting. We just need to do this. And, we can wait until some more time has elapsed and the field hasn't been able to be used this spring as we would hope, but I'm not sure there's much point to it since this is work that does need to be done to make this park usable.
So this is a graphic that we actually asked Tycee Printing to help us with. They did so at no cost. Mr. Carr approached them on this, and they just took a design. They took the design from JSD, who've been working on this for multiple years, and this is the finished kind of view. It's not totally perfect. For instance, this loop here will not exist. This is the parking lot, generally where it is, but not entirely right where it is. And we don't actually have lights ever planned for the JV soccer field, which is this location right here. But this is the varsity soccer field. What we're trying to do is put up, get the money for the light structures, the 4 lights that are there right now. And then we'd have the electrical service in this area, and then we're looking at fencing the baseball diamond right here as well as there, and then actually fencing in the whole area, which is also not really shown on the plan, but it is in our budgets. So that's just conceptually what we're talking about, and then these are the 2 softball diamonds with a big mound of dirt that's sitting right here that will eventually be spread in this area. So the budgets that we were talking about, they're generally what I was talking about a few moments ago from the top of my head, but basically what we're talking about is the lights, $100,000. I said 90, but kind of had to put the electrical in there too to finish those off. And then amenities, we were talking about $100,000 in fencing. Some of the utility money is already installed, but basically we're taking about that and some of this in order to get to the 250. So you can see that there's many other projects that are here that, if you add it all up, comes up to actually $1.25 million. But we're just trying to get those things that we want to use this spring kind of in place.
Barb, were you done?
I'm done.
Brian?
I was going to make a historical comment, but I will withdraw my request to do that.
Okay. Moving to Jeff then.
Just a comment on the remark about, why aren't we spending this money on other things? Money is not fungible in this case.
Fungible? What does that mean?
Fund 21 has to be spent on certain.
Oh, okay.
It has to be spent on certain things. We can't just spend it on whatever we want.
I understand that.
Okay. And just to reiterate, we anticipate a large percentage of the costs to be offset by sponsorships and or naming right agreements. They're not in place today, but as Andy and Steve said, it sounds like there's a very good chance that they will be. The reason this has been approved by FAC and the reason we're asked to vote on it tonight is so that we could get things done for this spring. So, in the end, I don't think it's going to be costing the school district $250,000 for the projects that Andy just mentioned. Yeah.
Well,
In response to that, I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse. I mean, that's like going out and buying a BMW and, turning in your Ford and well, I'm gonna get a pay raise. So, you know, that's how I see it, and it makes, I want to be cautious and not combative or argumentative, but cautious with the money. And also, in response to Barb's things, the buck stops here with us. And we are responsible for making sure that everything, the business aspect runs smoothly. I have no doubt, again, I have no doubt that we need to do this. We need to finish the project. But I don't believe, I'm feeling like our arms are being twisted because of, you know, oh, we have to get the kids out on the fields. We can put them on the fields in the springtime. Maybe the lights won't be up. And waiting 2 more weeks, I mean, I wish we had gotten this in our packets. I don't know why we didn't. We look at everything else and I feel like there's just something in my gut says that, you know, this has been problematic. And I feel better looking at these, thank you. But again, it seems like a rush job. And, you know, I don't know what other people want to do. I would be happy to vote for this in March, at our, March 14th, and have some time to talk to people, and have some time to find out what they would like to do. Can we play soccer in the daytime? Sure we can. Can we play baseball? Sure we can. Is this, you know, the lights are convenient. We can put them up later. Why is it now? And as far as academics, I understand about the funding, but again, this is a long history thing, but what are our priorities? I've been fighting for a better building for Oasis. But, you know, that's, you know, it's an academic. Wanted it on referendum. They were going to put Oasis in a shed again, next to a garage. So I didn't vote for that. But, you know, $1.2 million. And tonight we have to make a decision about $250,000. I feel uncomfortable doing it tonight. And I would like to see, you know, why not see some bids? I think it's our responsibility, Barb. And I'm just trying to be responsible, not, you know, if I'm the independent one in this situation, so be it. I'm not stopping it. We can still play.
Okay.
Do it in March. Homework is important.
All right. Charles?
Annie, as my understanding that the things that we're discussing that are part of this proposal basically are all things that we will be doing or have to be doing at some point in time. And the real variable may have to do with what kind of fencing. There may be some, you know, variability there, but basic elements, as I understand it, are really part of what was originally proposed as part of the development plan for this facility.
I would say that's accurate.
Is that it, Charles? Ray?
Well, I feel we don't have enough information to make an informed decision about spending $250,000 here in terms of taxpayer money. The bottom line is the numbers just came in tonight. We didn't have time to look that over in our packet. We didn't have time to look into this information, talk to the business manager, find out from the Financial Assets Committee about the conversations that might have taken place. The minutes are very, very general. And I have heard tonight several times that there was controversy about the sponsorship. So number one, I'd like to hear more about that. What does that mean? And then number two, I have a question. Is there a budget for the sponsorship? So if we're going to spend $250,000, how much of that do we anticipate to get back through sponsorship? What are the names of the organizations? How much have they agreed to donate? I mean, that's just business. That's just doing our due diligence to make sure that we know how much we're spending, what we're spending it on, and how much money we should get back. And I feel that I'm not really at a point where I can make an informed decision on behalf of my constituents tonight. So I agree. I think this is something that's important, and it's important enough that we should bring this up at a future board meeting where we have all the facts and we have time to ponder that information, review it, and then make an informed decision. So anyways, that was a question. The question in there was about the sponsorships. Number one, who has agreed to sponsor this and how much? And when do we expend those sponsorships? And number two, what is the controversy within the committee? I wasn't at that meeting. Does that mean people don't want to do the sponsorships? All of this information needs to be made available to the board.
I guess I've been involved in those communications, and I'm uncomfortable revealing the potential donors and the amounts, given that we're in the middle of conversations with them. With respect to any controversy, the issue is whether or not the district would agree to have naming rights for various facilities based upon donations. And that would be an ongoing conversation that we need to have.
Okay. No one else is on the roster to talk, so I just wanted to say a couple of things. I think that the Finance Committee has brought forward a reasonable plan. It's unfortunate that, like a lot of things, timing isn't perfect. The cart before the horse kind of problem. I have some concerns that if the school board says that we'll spend this money, it will make it harder than to fundraise for that same money. If people have seen that whatever we're going to build or put up is already going to be put up, they might agree then to, in order to push the project further, to fund something else instead of what we've already decided that we're going to pay for. I don't know. I don't know whether that's a problem or has historically been a problem or is likely to be a problem. It's just a concern that I'm thinking of. It's obvious that we needed to do the groundwork, and I think, could I just ask a clarifying question, Andy? That 1.2 million approximately does not include the groundwork that we've done, right? Correct. So that's from here going forward.
Correct. And then just to put that in perspective again, the original plan for this area was $4.5 million. We now think that we'd probably be able to, we think that it will be done at about 1.75 if you include everything. So
that's great work with the money. The only thing that I would like to see is if we could get, some shade for the people in the stands in the form of a very large solar panel that would follow the sun as we watch the games during the daytime.
Or trees.
I think trees would be really good too. But I have an affinity for solar panels because that would allow us to light the lights without any additional cost, and also advertise to the community and to visiting communities our dedication to environmental procedures and education here in the district. But that's just to throw that out there. Since we do have some more money in that fund, we might want to use that for the field and consider it to be part of the field. So because I do trust, and I want to always trust the committees that we have, I think that because what they brought forward is reasonable and we do have the money and it's not going to cost us any additional, or that I'm going to vote for this tonight. Go ahead, Gwen.
And it's a protocol issue, Gina. I noticed up there that, and no offense, Steve, but one of the fields is called Zoc Field, and I understand that that is to be named after Steve Zoc?
No.
No?
No. It was Zoc Field in its former state, and I've indicated, and it's not for me, it's for my father and my brother.
So it is a family issue, though?
I have indicated that I have no interest if that continues.
Because the vote then, I'm wondering if you should recuse yourself from the vote.
The lighting and fencing has nothing to do with that field or the issues. And I've indicated that there is no interest in continuing that name in the field, although I can tell you that my family will be donating the dugouts and the scoreboard. So it's not an issue.
Okay, well, I didn't know, so I had to ask.
Gina, would you just address that as to whether you think there may be a conflict?
So legally, you're not allowed to vote on something if you or your immediate family will receive a financial gain from the proposal that's being voted on. So I'm assuming that Mr. Zoc and his immediate family will not receive a financial gain from this proposal.
We are actually contributing to the project.
And thank you for that clarification. I did not know.
Okay. Did you have anything else? Okay, Ray.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to defer this to committee so that a more specific proposal could be brought back at the next board meeting with the numbers in writing. So that's my motion.
I have a motion to defer.
Second.
And a second. Gina, do we discuss this motion now? Or is this a motion that goes without discussion?
With an original motion from committee.
So essentially, it's a
So-
motion to table the motion.
Right, that would be a more appropriate
Okay, that's fine.
motion. So if you want to withdraw your motion and make that motion instead.
The table? Sure.
Okay. You want to second the motion to table?
Sure, second.
Okay. So now we have a motion to table. And what's the procedure on this motion? Discuss the motion?
So there's no discussion on a motion to table. And so you would just go to an immediate vote, and it would take a 2/3 vote.
Okay, 2/3 vote to table, so help me count.
So we're going
Yes.
to need 5.
Need 5 out of 7 in order to table on this motion. Okay, does everybody agree with that or have any problems with the procedure that we've set up?
Fine.
Okay. All right, Janie, would you call the roll on the motion to table?
Ms. Vogler?
Yes.
Ms. Mason?
Yes.
Ms. Feeney?
No.
Mr. Uphoff?
No.
Mr. Zott?
No.
Mr. Riemann?
No.
Mr. Kraus?
No. Motion fails. We are back to discussion of the previous motion, and we have no one left on the docket for discussion. So at this point, I would like to move to a roll call vote. Janie, would you call the roll on the original motion from committee to spend $250,000?
Okay, and who was the person that brought
As the
that
committee.
forward? I know, who made the motion from the committee?
Well, I think Andy brought it forward.
Okay.
But Andy can't bring forward a motion as not being a board member, so it'd have to be from a board member.
Well, it's from the committee.
That's right, I got Mr. Raymond. Okay. Mr. Raymond?
Yes.
Ms. Feeney?
Yes.
Mr. Uphoff?
Yes.
Mr. Zott?
Yes.
Ms. Vogler? No, because we don't have enough information.
Ms. Mason
No, at this time.
and Mr. Kraus.
Yes. Motion passes. And we have said that money's coming out of Fund 21. Hopefully we can get a majority or even all of it back through fundraising. That would be wonderful. Okay, we will now move on to Part D of the agenda, closing. Future agenda, we have a proposed future agenda or some proposal. Where is that? Do we have that, Janie? Oh, okay, there it is. All right, thank you. So this is what we've got so far. If anybody has anything right now at the top of their mind that they know they want to see on the agenda for next time?
We may have something from the Vision Steering Committee with respect to approving the values document. I mean, that's our goal.
Which is going.
Do you want to have that on the placeholder agenda so we can?
I do. It would be an action item.
I have it already.
Okay, you got it?
From Vision.
Okay.
I just wanted to put what it was.
And as part of the visioning committee, it's really exciting.
Good. Okay, anything else?
We'll have a few things on policy committee. We have a policy meeting on March 1st, Tuesday at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Good.
And the agenda, if there's anything that you want to put on the agenda, contact me tonight or tomorrow morning because I need to get that in.
So the agenda for the policy committee, and I know you guys are busy. You got a lot of stuff percolating there.
And we also, I'm looking at stuff that needs to be renumbered, which Gina and I probably need to talk about. I've been reading some things in the old numbering system that needs to be updated as well.
Okay. All right. So if you have anything or then something comes up, please email me or call me and Dr. Bustler, and we'll make sure that it gets on to the agenda.
We will have a physical assets committee meeting on Wednesday, and there may be something coming out of that meeting, in which case I will forward that for the agenda.
Great. So just remember, if it gets here 10 days before the 14th, it's sure to get on the agenda for policy. If it gets here after, say, the 4th of March, it's a question whether or not it'll get on that agenda or the next one. Okay, moving on to checkout. Charles.
Nothing.
Jeff.
Nothing.
Mina.
A couple of you were interested in Harvey when I mentioned it a couple months ago. That's this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I believe. I don't know if it's all 4 days. I know it starts Thursday though.
Harvey?
Yeah, it's the play going on at the high school.
Oh,
right now.
right.
Yep.
Excellent. Starts Thursday, you said?
Thursday, I believe at
Not just any group.
I believe 7.
7.
is the show.
Food talk?
All right.
Awesome, I'll try to be there.
Ray?
Nothing?
I don't have anything.
Well, I'm excited. Two things. I'm going to offer one of the first community outreach for the Arts Initiative. We're going to be offering on June 18th, hopefully, I think that's the date, a community friendship polls that will be popping up all around Oregon eventually. And they are open for individuals, families, anything you want to do to express yourself. And I never leave home, which is my own problem, and I finally got to the Minneapolis Institute of Art over the weekend, and I saw a painting that took my breath away that I cannot get out of my mind, and that is a Rembrandt, and it was Lucretia, and Rembrandt painted tears in this person's eyes that would make you weep with beauty and joy. It was gorgeous.
I think I've heard of him.
It's a beauty.
Isn't he a turtle?
Lucretia?
No.
Oh my God.
I'm joking. Okay, Steve.
Some sad news, earlier this month, Chuck Peter passed away. And Chuck was a long-term school board member, and I believe he's also president for a period of time. Very bright man, dedicated to public education, gentle spirit, and who called me up one day in 1998 and said there's an opening on the school board, and would you consider applying for that? And Chuck was always good to call me and suggest things and give me advice as I was a young board member, and I remember watching him as a board member over the years, and we are a better school district because of his service.
He attended our 2007 visioning conference as well.
Thank you. Barb. Dr. Bussler.
Just a thank you to the middle school, Shannon and Josh, and our middle school students, showing us the way on an important project that positively impacts middle school culture and student growth and development. And one of the beautiful things of school visits is we have the opportunity to learn from our students, and they did a terrific job tonight. So Shannon and Josh, thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, at this point, we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Great meeting. Thanks, Shannon. It really was wonderful.
Look at all these.
Yeah.